call this meeting to order. Are you ready? Call this meeting to order. It is Thursday, July 24th, 2025. It's 10:05, and we're here to discuss the sheriff's continued discussion of the sheriff pay scale. Commissioner Dose wasn't here this last time, so if you guys would repeat the questions that you brought before the board and concerns to Commissioner Dose, and then we'll have a discussion and vote on it.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yep. So we'll just kind of go through what we kind of hit on before. We just wanted to make some adjustments to our pay matrix, just kind of change some of the formatting. A little bit of it would adjust pay slightly. Some of the things we're looking at doing. The first thing we had was just adjusting the captain wage from salary to hourly. Was the first thing we had on there. Some of the reasonings for that was they're working way more than 40 hours. Like Captain Lopez has been actually working shifts in the jail for the last 3 months. And so he's probably working anywhere between 48 to 50 some hours a week and not being compensated for it. Captain Green regularly, he had a week just a few weeks ago, he had 60 some hours. And then, so he's regularly working more hours, not being compensated for it. And so we're asking to adjust them just to hourly. And another one of the reason is that even the sergeants, for the most part, are bringing home more money than they are. And that's just, they're with the ability to work a few extra shifts here and there, working some of the grants and all that. The sergeants, or if we have a lieutenant, which we do have one in patrol, will frequently be taking home more money. So we're just asking to change that so that they're compensated for the actual hours they work. We wouldn't be asking for any adjustment to the overtime budget or anything. We do it within the budget we had before. And part of that would involve about $1 an hour raise, just so their hourly rate is actually higher than if we are lieutenant that we have.
Okay, you guys want to discuss this? We'll discuss each one as we go.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So we don't get.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
I guess I have a question.
Okay.
Do they get comp for their overtime? Do they get any? They don't get comp.
We
time?
haven't never done comp time or nothing like that.
Okay, that was the question I had.
Commissioner Dose?
I'm still thinking. This is new for me.
One of the biggest problems I see is, like I stated before, is there a standard? Have you guys contacted any other sheriff's offices, and this is what they're doing?
Yeah. So if you look,
Go ahead.
if you look at other pay scales. So I did some looking. Usually if into the ranks levels, if they're hourly, it's usually they're getting $1 or $2 more an hour. Now, if you go salaries, you start looking to where it goes to a salary, it's normally like 10% more, 5 to 10 to 20% more of a pay. Because of that, you'll see like literally the salary just goes way beyond what they would be making hourly.
I'm
And
talking about administrators.
Yes,
That's
and
what
we
we're
actually
talking
have those numbers already through Kootenai and Post Falls to where, and actually you just had Captain Paul Berger here recently. I believe he makes between 140 and 180,000 a year, somewhere in there. So, and we're not asking for that. That's a massive job, and we can't, right?
We can't keep up with
compete
Kootenai.
with Kootenai.
Right.
But let me get to one
I'm
point.
just saying, if your salary, typically there's a gap there
I
to
understand
compensate, because what you have
I'm answering your question. I was
Yeah.
answering your question.
But just wait 1 minute. I want to just let you guys know I talked to Kootenai. I talked to Bonner. I talked to Latah, and I talked to Benoit, and all their administrators are paid salary.
Correct. And to answer your question, the reason they do that is they hype the salary up way above what the hourly employees are. That way that they do get compensated for their work. That's how they do that. if you look at organizations and companies who try to make the salary right at the line of everyone else, it actually behooves administrators to take demotions, right? So if your lieutenant is making more hourly than you do, even when your salary is equated to hourly, then you might as well take a demotion, right? It's clear as day. There's no.
But the other problem that I have is when I understand how they do it. What they do is they'll average overtime, and then that's how they bring their salary. But to change it now to just that's what I'm saying. Why aren't you changing it? Adjusting it instead of doing it salary? Because one of the things they were talking about is being an administrator, you're not having to go out on do the things that the other deputies are having to do on a daily basis. So that is kind of a perk that you're not doing. And that's what the other sheriff's departments were saying. I just want to make sure that there's a standard and that we're following the standard.
So, an answer, if I could interject some, is that it actually, doing this way, saves the county money compared to the standard that's set by law enforcement. So typically, like we said, there's a way higher jump to the salary. So if you're suggesting we stick with the salary, then that would be suggesting a salary raise significantly, which would essentially cost the county even more money. This would be only like $1 an hour more above the lieutenant. And then you can you can go out there on overtime and grant shifts. For example, I'll be running the Border Patrol grant if that comes through, which right now I won't be out there, right? I'll just at the moment. But so those will be funds paid for by the federal government and not in the county.
Have we got that grant yet?
Not yet. Okay. Not yet. That's something that's still in the process. And the next step actually comes through next month.
And the other thing about changing this right now is we're in the middle of the budget and we don't know what your revenue is going to be next year.
Well, that's
so how are we?
That's why we're trying to get the approval to try and work this into the budget. These changes.
Well, because
you don't make the changes
afterwards. You would
make
do that
the changes after the budget's been figured out. Or?
So after we figure out the revenue, so that we know, if your revenue's not there, then how are we going to pay for this?
Well, we somewhat do know what our revenue is from last year as a base model, to where which we'll get to the civilian staff, that's the only one we're asking for an injection of cash. This and whatever else we can do with employee wages will be ideally coming out of our current budget that you guys approved. We're not asking for more money outside of that for next year because of obviously the financial situation the county's in. Trying to go off of your suggestion of, okay, how do we work possibly considering cuts of position and whatnot to somehow maintain competitiveness, somewhat competitiveness and employee wages.
Let me ask a clarifying question. Under Sheriff, are we talking about this request is for a change that would take place like this month, or are we talking for the next
budget?
Thank you. Thank you.
We're just trying to plan for the next budget, and all we want to do is try and work these things into the next budget and see if it works in the next budget and how it'll affect.
Well, what if it doesn't work in the next budget and we approved it? That's what I'm worried about. I want to see where you guys are at before I start making decisions on, okay, we're going to get pay raises and we're going to get this, so that we know. Now we have a STEP grant. The STEP grant that we have, was it 200,000?
260,000.
And we haven't received any money on that yet.
We're getting our money.
Okay.
Yep. We just got 2 checks for it, like here recently, I think.
We did, and we talked last year during budget season that grants can't be taken in as part of the assumed revenue because it's a grant that changes from year to year.
Yeah, they still kind of factor it in though. They put it in.
They factored it in, yes.
Just like
because if you're using that grant for a pay raise, then we have to put it on the revenue side, because if you don't get the grant, the person still has a pay raise. How are we gonna feed that?
Are you saying it was used for a pay raise, or just suggesting that we may ask for that? Because we're not asking for that grant to be used for a pay raise.
No, that it is in your revenue source. It's in your source.
It's listed in there. Peggy put 260,000.
Well, but in doing that, she combined it, because everything was
That's why it's
changing so
confusing.
quickly,
She
yes.
put so much into
And-
one thing.
And you have mine where it's great, where I broke out what I'm projecting and what you guys have projected, so.
No, let's go ahead. But yeah, that's just my concern is, I want to make sure that we're going to be able to afford this. And I do.
Yeah, I think overall it's a minimal change. It's probably cost less than $10,000. We're not asking for any change to the overtime budget.
So it was brought to my attention, on the civilian pay matrix. Of course, I'm still new.
Mm-hmm.
Still learning all this. The old one, which your civilians are on the
Yep.
old one. And then, from my understanding, Peggy brought in a new pay matrix, which they're not on. However, it was brought to my attention that you might want to look, because some employees may be going down on that new pay matrix, and then some may have a significant increase, just so you're kind of prepared for either or. Just look at it.
Well, I sent Timmy what I had for the numbers and the grade that they would go into. And I don't think anybody went down, but
It was just brought to my attention.
I don't think there's
to
anybody
look at
that would be getting higher than like 70 cents on
Okay.
it or something like that.
But
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
I'm just thinking
but
for
that-
budget.
Yeah, that is the matrix, and I figured it out to it is about $12,000 to move all those people into that matrix of what me and Timmy were looking at.
one of the problems I see with that is where do we get the cash to push in a cash influx? It has to be reoccurring income. So, the board just can't push cash over there.
Well, I think
for
the
that.
fact, like now if we're jumping the civilian thing,
Mm-hmm.
the fact they were left off of it should have never happened.
Well, that's your department. You guys have your own budget and you have your own expenses, and you guys
I know that, but
had that.
I think we'll make it happen. We'll figure out where to cut a little bit to make sure they can afford to get on there. But they shouldn't be on a whole different giant matrix for 5, 6, 7 people. They should just be on the matrix that's here for the county for the civilian staff.
And if you look at how money has moved over the last 3 years, money absolutely has just pushed one way, pushed another way, pushed one way, pushed another way.
But we can't do it in a regular budget season. We're already in a budget season.
I know
Would
this
you
That
this
money
is,
would have to be
explain that to
moved
me,
at the end of the year.
this would be a change for next budget.
Okay, so that would have to be.
Yeah, all this is we're asking for next budget. Now, right now, we don't want to.
It's what one page.
We definitely don't want to change stuff in the middle of the budget. We
We
want
back and
to try to
clarify that.
budget that into our budget with.
Okay.
We.
I thought you
Lord.
guys meant doing it right now.
No.
Oh, the
no.
civilian, I thought so too.
Yeah, no. This is
Okay.
all of this is
Okay.
All
for
of it's for,
The
next,
next
budget.
budget. Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
What, since I wasn't at the last meeting, what is the request for the civilian?
So the civilians is when the new budget was made for all the civilian staff at the courthouse. Our civilian staff was all left on the old matrix, the old county matrix. So they're the only, and part of the recommendation of the audit was to try to eliminate some of these matrix that we have and try and get everybody kind of uniformity into the same system. And so we're just proposing to get rid of the old matrix, throw them into the new matrix. And I think it's going to cost about $12,000 to do that, because we have probably a total of like 8. We got a few like part-time people that cook and clean, reserve the maintenance. We got the maintenance guy. We got civil department. We got records and evidence, driver's license.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought that was like right now.
No, I don't want. I know it's
I
not a good
honestly-
idea to change stuff.
I
in the middle.
honestly thought the civilian was too. It was a right now.
You know, my thought on this too is I would really like to see how much revenue that we've brought in this year and what our projections are for next year. And we don't have that because our audit has our audit been completed yet?
Got his bill.
Okay. So our audit hasn't been completed and we've been waiting on that. So we won't know what our L2s are for next year really until that audit is completed.
Well, we're working on L2s now.
Mm-hmm. But our financial statements that he's
We're
supposed
pulling
to provide
we're pulling our financial statements
off of last year.
With what we have, but
Mhm.
again, it's not until it's all projections.
And that's what I'm worried
It's all
about.
projection because yes, the end of the fiscal year is September 30th. However, we don't close the books until months after.
Yeah. I mean,
Months and
at the end of the day,
because we have to move.
these aren't egregious
JVs.
acts.
I know they're not.
Yeah,
And I would,
this isn't like we just want to kick a little more money here or there or wherever.
I understand that.
Literally, it's all a lot of this stuff is to reduce liability, add some
Mhm.
extra supervision layers into the sheriff's office, make sure a few people are compensated fairly for what they're doing, and that's all we're really asking for.
Yeah, and I don't want you to get the feeling that we're here just to say no all the time. I'm just worried about the funding. I'm worried about our budget, and until we know the budget, I'm not comfortable doing this. I have to be, we control the purse, and we've got to make sure that it's going to be funded. And I'm worried about our funding.
Can I ask a qualifying question then? We're asking for your guys' help too. If you guys believe that we've presented a need, and frankly, obviously wages are a need, then it'll be another meeting. But we're asking also for help from you guys to say, how do we get there? So if the budget is in this shape, also like even possibly look at a supplemental levy for law enforcement might be an option as well. So I guess maybe we're also looking for input from you three to say, we haven't had any ups in 3 years. We've cut a ton. We're looking for a path forward, and we'd like your guys' input on that. How do we get there?
And that's and really we've been looking for a path forward. We're trying to figure out where we can generate more income other than the tax base, because the biggest problem we have in Shoshone County is if you go to look at all the other counties in the state of Idaho, their budgets, their tax receipts or income usually covers over 50% of their budget. In Shoshone County, our taxes only cover about 30% of our budget. So that's where we have a problem, and they're trying to get with they're trying to pass something for next year. We've been trying to get the legislature to pass something that we can do like a hotel tax and things like that. But the wheels are moving slowly, and that's we're kind of pinned down.
Mm-hmm.
And if we had the revenue, I would have no problem. I mean, I would be the next person. I know you guys, a lot of it's our employees are underpaid and overworked here and there, and if we had the revenue, I would be more than happy to do that. And and it hurts us to have to say, well, we got to look at this further, but I just really want to make sure that we're going down the right road.
And I understand the plight we're in. I guess we're looking for help getting forward. So that's the plight. The only thing, like let's say this doesn't look good coming into the coming year, then the supplemental levy, something like that. Because if we're already 3 years frozen, something like a hotel tax that we don't even know how much money we get from or anything like that. Because my guess is that wouldn't fix the problem, but that's just a guess. What's the 3-year plan we can tell the entire county employees, but particularly ours at the sheriff's office, just because that's who we govern, for lack of a better term, because us in these rules, that's our job.
They
to
need
come
to
up
see,
with an
they
actual
need to see
plan.
a future.
We haven't had one much for the last few years when it comes to this type of thing. So what's the plan moving forward? We'd love to work with you guys on that.
Yeah, I would agree. the plan looking forward. It's, I know they kind of froze the grants for a little bit, but, I've heard from others that, they use a lot of the grants for new officer funding for a lot of things. So, but you guys had the freeway grant or the grant, and that got squashed. So, we're kind of all didn't.
No, all
I
of
think
our
we got it back.
Oh, you
Yeah,
got
we
it
all
back.
that back.
Oh, good.
yeah, and they said they were gonna pay us for the quarter where it wasn't funded
Okay,
too.
Oh,
and,
thanks.
and that
We got
type
an
of
email.
stuff
That
would
was
be
just OT
great
though.
for the VOCC
Wasn't that just
to-
OT money though?
Well, you have the OT one, and then you have Darius's position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They withheld money for a
Yeah.
quarter.
Yeah.
And we got an email stating they were gonna fund that
So
as
they-
Oh, good,
so
because the
they-
last time
so
you
they
guys talked, it was
okay.
squashed, so I've been worrying about
Yeah.
that.
We got that back.
Okay, so we need to keep our,
Yeah,
Communications open a
communication
little
on that,
bit. Yeah.
yeah.
We've been in a little bit of a crisis.
Yeah, I know.
So
Okay.
what, have you done any research on supplemental levies? You had a chance to do any?
A little
looking
bit.
at it?
I know. I just saw a thing 2 days ago. Meridian PD is doing one to try and increase their benefits. So there's cities, agencies doing it. I need to see if there's some counties that are actually doing it as well.
Mhm.
But I guess we didn't want to push a path forward on that until we know where we're at really with the budget, and if that's that's kind of like last resort,
Yeah.
the levies. But if we're to that point and that's where we need to go, then that's where we'll shift our focus. But
And if we can somehow figure out how to make it work to, I don't know, there's a few routes forward to stay within this budget and make the wages better, to work with Lori to do that. We're going to try to do that as long as you guys give us the go ahead to start trying to make that happen. And with the supplemental levy being on the back burner to try to make this work as a unit.
So what you're really requesting today is permission to include these in a proposed new budget.
yep.
So
We just
all-
want to be able to try to work with Lori and see. I don't know. A lot of this is very minimal expense, and I know we may have to cut somewhere to afford it or whatever. But some of this stuff, like you said, if we're not giving pay, then we gotta find ways to improve morale, improve some of the things people are asking for at the office, and that's how you try and keep people in other ways. And some of the stuff that was asked for in the employee surveys. Those extra layer of being able to promotions into corporal that we had on there, that's not just a promotion, but it's they see that as opportunity. If there's no opportunity for growth, or they see that corporal position, okay, that's an opportunity I could potentially have after being there 3-4 years, and I can start learning some of that supervisory role. Gives us that extra layer of supervisors at night and not having to call these guys at home constantly, and it just kind of helps overall morale of the team when you add those layers in. And then you're also training your future leaders, because I mentioned before the mistake we always made in the past is not preparing future leaders. And it's like, oh, our sergeant just put his 2 weeks notice in, you're next up, and they're like, oh man, deer in the headlight. We haven't prepared him at all for that role.
So, how many sergeants you guys have? You got 3 right now?
It's two different sides of the house. I'll let Captain
Yeah,
Lopez
Captain.
speak to his. But for me, I have 2 sergeants and a lieutenant.
Okay. So you're using a lieutenant as a sergeant, basically.
What have you got?
No, so because of how it would work, so like we have 24/7 coverage, right?
Mhm.
So if you do the math, that's way more than 3 supervisors to actually supervise all that time. It's like 6, I think, which we're not asking for that. But the lieutenant helps oversee the sergeant, because you need someone, and I also help oversee the sergeants, but we have so many different divisions and groups and things we have to watch at all times, everything from civil to evidence to, it goes on and on and on, to where he also supervises the sergeants themselves. They have to do everything from report writing to these different raids we're doing, to different bed cases, to the training, to the K-9 program, and so on. So he also subs for sergeants. Like if a sergeant goes on, we had one go on baby leave not too long ago.
Mhm.
He was then the acting sergeant as well as his regular duties. Just like if he's out for some reason, I'm doing all his work as well, and vice versa for him up.
Okay.
Would be my answer to that.
Okay, so you basically have two.
I've
And
got
you
two,
and the jail
yes.
have.
I have one sergeant, and
One sergeant.
he's right now covering deputy shifts himself on a night shift. He's doesn't have the opportunity at the moment to actually excel at being a sergeant, due to being on night shift.
And he's working 60 hours a
He's
week,
put-
something like that.
He has it budgeted for 2 sergeant positions,
Mhm.
but we only have one that would be. And this is an example of the corporal position. So we actually have a guy right now in the jail that we made a corporal, but he's not getting any pay for it. And because not quite ready to be a sergeant yet, but we want that ability to train him and introduce him into the supervisory role, give him a few more responsibilities, but we don't want him necessarily handling employees and that kind of stuff yet, but we're giving some of them.
Just assisting the sergeant,
Yep.
helping take some of the weight off of his back if you can.
So that corporal position in the, ask for it in the jail, that's more like an option to kind of step forward to the sergeant role. And the same with the lieutenant position in the jail. If you have a sergeant that's excelling, because we've had, obviously in the last 7-8 years, we've had 3 different captains quit, even at the sheriff's office, between detention, and I've been running it since the captain before that quit. And in patrol, we've had 3 different captains in the last 8 years. And if you don't have that lieutenant role in there, teaching them, getting their mind ready for that position, you end up in. We just got truly lucky that Seth came from ISP and took the captain position, or we might not even have one right now.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So
So what are we doing on, I don't see where, I think you guys can work with Lori to see if it works underneath your budget.
I have
don't
a
see-
couple questions.
Okay.
Okay, so we're taking an employee that's making 75,000 a year salary, and they're now going to go hourly for more than the 75,000.
Be
Slightly.
just
Another
barely,
two,
just $1 or something.
so another $3,000.
Roughly, yeah.
So now that
like
person's
70.
making $78,000, rough figures.
Yeah,
right?
I think the patrol captain's at
Okay.
76. It'd be at 79.
Okay. So what's going to guarantee they're not going to get overtime? I mean, they're doing the same
Well,
job.
they might get a little bit of overtime, but we wouldn't be asking for an increase in the overtime budget. We would
Exactly.
just stay within the overtime budget that we were allotted.
That's our control factor. That way we can show the county that we're still staying in with our budget, not going over overtime. The sheriff and the undersheriff would keep us in check to make sure we didn't just go out there and start
Okay,
working.
but you're missing my point. They're doing the same exact job for $76,000. You want to move them to 79,000 to do the same exact job, but now they're going to get the 79,000 plus overtime. The job's the job. Nothing's going to change in the job. That's the beauty of salary. You get to work a minimum of 40. But lucky for you, you probably get to work more like 58 to 60.
That's not the beauty
So
of
you're saying that's the
salary.
beauty
the
of
horror
salary?
I know, but I do it. I'm doing it. So, and I'm not making 76,000 a year. I mean, these people are making more than your elected officials. Well, besides Holly.
So if you want my answer to that, so there's a reason that no one actually took the captain position initially, and they've had 3 go out. Jeff Lee had his number he came to. I'm not gonna say what that was, but as far as what he was actually working hourly, that actually I believe, if I'm correct, Lieutenant Bo Sargent refused to take the position, and a huge part of it was that they would be taking pay cuts for more work, right? So as you go up, generally the requirements for every position goes up as well, and especially experience and stuff takes. So for example, I have 2,400 hours in post hours, along with my instructor trains and everything else, and I can give you my resume, but it'll go up in those requirements to where thus you get paid more than the next layer down. That's
Right,
just kind of
and I
common sense.
appreciate that, but you have to have the money to do that. So I'm seeing this,
So you don't
If
want
you're-
you don't want to try to work $1 an hour in for the captains into the budget, and will work with us to do that because you think they're overpaid.
I'm not saying they're overpaid.
Okay.
Absolutely, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is there's not room in your budget to do this.
So we're trying to play within our budget, but again, back to your point, why would we not just demote ourselves to lieutenants?
Or a sergeant.
You see my point?
Well,
I do, but I don't
honestly, it's the sheriff's. I mean, it's Sheriff Lindsay's job to restructure, and I see that you guys have some imbalances going on, and she really does need to go and sit down at the drawing table and restructure, you know, everything that's with the salaries and.
Yeah, we're trying to restructure it a little bit. That's why we're here, trying to adjust this to fit more of like the current need in law
Right.
enforcement and the kind of the what's going on at our agency, and give those extra layers of supervision and with very minimal expense overall from where we are now.
So you would have a cap on the overtime.
We
For
would
that.
not let them just work.
Okay.
I'd definitely regulate it.
Because being on that higher wage.
That's what we're not asking
Your
for, more
overtime.
overtime
Okay.
in the budget line.
Because that overtime, I'm just saying, it's with
And
the
they may
increase
get a little
in the
bit of
wage.
overtime here and there,
Yeah.
but we would just monitor it like
Well, can't you do that now?
No.
you can to some
You
extent.
can't.
I can't go work the federal grants and get reimbursed at that wage, at any wage. They usually even have an exception for salary employees because we're already salary.
Mm.
Well, Mr. Chair, we're
we're running out of time.
I would like to voice that all they're asking for is a chance to work up the numbers and let's look at them.
I would
Why not
agree.
allow them to do that?
I would agree that. Go ahead
Yeah,
and
that's fine.
start working up the numbers and talk with,
And then we make our decision
Then we'll
later.
make our
when we have
Yeah,
decision.
more
if we
Okay.
gotta cut other places
okay,
to make it work, then we just like
Okay.
the opportunity to do that.
okay. Yeah, work it out, and then bring it back. I
Okay.
appreciate it. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
And again, you know, we really want to help you guys, so we're not here to kick you in the can.
Well,
We're just really here to make sure that we can afford it.
And that's why we're trying to stay within this budget.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Okay, thank you. Meeting, any further questions? Meeting adjourned.